powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you today, as always, by our friends at Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. In this 4 o'clock hour of the Sports Badge, it's brought to you by Taco Cat. Got a craving for tacos? Then check out Taco Cat, 8 South Essex Avenue in Margate. Adam Caplan is here, and of course you can check out Adam Caplan on the Inside the Birds podcast and listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. And on their YouTube channel, just search Inside the Birds. And he joins us right now with a look at Eagles, Cowboys, round 1. What's going on, Adam?
Hey, Mike, good to be with you. Yeah, we just got the injury report literally 20 seconds ago. This happens a lot over the years when we do Football at 4 when the Eagles are playing on a Sunday. So here we'll go right to it. Here are the outs this week. There's only one surprise in terms of who's going to be out. So Grant Calcaterra, is expected with a concussion, is out. Now, here's an interesting one. Cam Jurgens is out with a foot, right? Now, because he's on injury reserve but is practicing this week, the Eagles have to put him on the injury report. They don't have a choice. It's a new rule in the NFL this season. Sirianni kind of gave it away. Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, he's pretty good. If you really read into what he's saying, you could tell some hesitation in his voice for Jurgens playing. I'm like, he ain't playing this week. I could tell. And that's happening here. Bradley Roby's expected. Boston Scott is away on a personal matter. Hope everything's okay with him. So we know the coaches don't want to play Rashad Penny, but they're going to. They're going to this week. He'll be the third running back. And wouldn't it be interesting if he pulled one of those moves a couple years ago, like on 3 carries, he goes for like 90 yards, something like that?
Well, he has been an interesting topic of conversation this week. I mean, obviously, people looking at Gainwell and saying, why is he getting all these opportunities? How about trying Penny? And it's been kind of squashed, as Sirianni has said. Listen, past performances, practice, the whole body of work. And now the door has cracked open for Penny. Would you anticipate that they say, you know what, he's active today, why don't we give him a couple carries?
Well, that's the thing. We know but see, what their running game has been the entire season, Mike, unless there's an injury, it's the quarterback, though Hurts is not running as much, and it's Swift and Gainwell. So based on the lack of usage for Boston Scott, Penny will dress and only play if somebody needs a break. That's it. We're basing this on the entire body of work through 8 games. I mean, that's just the way that they've done this thing. I understand. We've said this on Inside the Birds many times. Penny had a disappointing training camp, did not look good in the preseason. Okay, so they don't want to use him. And you saw in that game that Boston Scott got hurt, that they had to play Penny. They didn't really want to, but they did, or it was a game. Well, whoever got hurt very early in the season, I think it was that Minnesota game, and then they pulled him out of the game, although the Eagles were up big. So here we are. That's pretty much it, Mike. We knew Roby wasn't going to play. Oh, Brad, we should mention a couple minor notes here. James Bradbury was added back to the injury report. He was on last week, taken off. He was added today. He was limited by a thigh injury, but he will play. Jordan Davis will play for the hamstring. Suapeta will be available with the hip. So the only question is who starts at that guard position. Right now, I mean, look, Suapeta was that guy who's been starting, but Tyler Steen, as we understand it, Mike, we're going to look more into this. He got first-team reps in practice this week. The coaches haven't made a final decision who's going to start. If it winds up being Steen, it's less to do with those 6 snaps. It's more to do. Let's remember, Mike, he was drafted to start at that other guard spot to take over for Malo. So this could be his debut. We'll know a little bit more. We're going to talk about this on a pregame show from 1 to 3 p.m. from Fringe Bar in Philly with myself, Mosher, Cosell, and Yvonne again. So we're going to talk about that. But it certainly would not be a surprise at all if Tyler Steen started. Again, why? Because he was drafted to be a starter.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4 here. So Jalen Carter is good?
Yep, yeah, he's good to go with the back. Yeah, so the testing was fine. It was clear. He hasn't missed any practice time. It gave him a scare because anytime a player cannot return to a game due to injury, you're always concerned about that. That's been the history of this thing. And by the way, Milton Williams will definitely play with a shoulder injury. This is his 3rd different injury in 4 weeks, so that's something that you want to watch. And Jack Stoll has his 2nd injury in a couple weeks, shoulder then an ankle. He'll play. He's the Y tight end. He's their backup tight end, and that's it. So now for the Cowboys, as we go over to them, they have one real concern, and that's Tyron Smith, their left tackle, who has a neck stinger. He's missed 5 straight practices. my sense is he won't be clear to play because that's a real concern. It's a real concerning injury. You remember what happened with Jordan Howard, Mike? He missed several games over the years with the Eagles with neck stingers. So that's always a concern.
All right, let's take a look at some matchups here. The Eagles' offense, Jalen Hurts, not running as much as we know, turned into more of a pocket passer so far this year. Going up against this Dallas D, who's lost Diggs, big loss for them, but they do have Micah Parsons. So what is Hurts looking at in that secondary?
Yeah, so they play a lot of man coverage. They're a top 5 man coverage team in the 40 percentile range. In today's NFL, that's a lot. When I was first covering the league, that would not be a lot. But if you're going 30% or more, the Eagles are around 29 to 30%. That's a little bit above the league average. But the Cowboys are a high percentage man team, and they're doing a lot of pre- and post-snap disguise. They're not the most talented team in the secondary, but they're super deep at corner and really deep at safety. Gilmore is going to play man coverage. He's going to be on A.J. Brown some, not all game, but he's going to be on them some, and it could be a lot. So that's one matchup because no one has stopped this guy. Now the question is, will they double team Brackett? We'll learn more. Duron Bland, their nickel corner now is starting. Trayvon Diggs on the outside. Jordan Lewis is back as their nickel, as he has been for many years. Not the most athletic guy. Some teams thought he'd be a safety because he didn't move all that well, but he's a tough physical guy. You're going to see Jaron Kearse. He is their designated coverage tight end safety. So you're going to see him on Dallas Goedert, who's had some really good games over the years against the Cowboys. The run defense is better, Mike. That's why I don't see Hurts being a factor in the run game, to be honest with you. Not much of a factor. Boy, did he throw well from the pocket last week. Not only was it his best game of the year, I mean, he was terrific last week, and it was bombs away, very, very aggressive. If they get a chance, you know that the ball's going to go downfield.
Yeah, you know what? You take some shots at that secondary here and see that. You got the running backs against the Dallas front seven. And then, of course, how do they match up with A.J. Brown? And let's throw Goddard into that conversation.
Yeah, so the question now is, because Eagles have not run the ball well, it's not how many times they run it. They want to be more successful doing it. That's been the problem. People want to blame Sua-Peta. Okay, clearly Cam Jurgens was playing outstanding football before he suffered a sprained foot. Being that Cam Jurgens won't be available this week, whoever they start this week, Opeta or Tyler Steen, doesn't have a lot of experience. Obviously, Opeta has way more experience than Steen. Steen only had 6 snaps last week. He's learning a new position in the season. That's always difficult. And the Cowboys have a deep front. They're not really talented D tackle. They're better. Mozzie Smith, their first-round pick out of Michigan, doesn't play a whole lot. He's more of a fourth tackle. I'm interested to see what they do here, Mike. The Eagles typically want to come out throwing. That's been their MO. Unless their thing over the last 2 years, when they get off to a great running start, sometimes they do stick with it. But that's really not what they want to do. They want to throw it. But the Cowboys are really deep, so it wouldn't surprise me in this game, Mike, if they come out with more 12 personnel, which means 2 tight ends and 2 receivers, and obviously you know who those 2 receivers are. Would not surprise me at all to get because the Cowboys will play base. They'll play I shouldn't say they play base. Their base defense is their nickel. Is 3 corners or 3 safeties. They don't really play a traditional base. So I'm interested to see though what the Eagles' approach is. I would expect more 12 personnel here because they will blitz and they're very aggressive. They're a big stunning team.
We know up front the Eagles' offensive line generally wins, right? That's the battle that we always kind of give them a check mark. But is it as pronounced this week?
Well, Michael Parsons is not. The Eagles have, over Nick Sirianni's tenure here, they've done a great job of defending him. I'm interested to see what their game plan is because Mailata really bounced back last week. He played well. Lane Johnson's playing well. Kelsey's been great. So is Landon Dickerson. Yes, right guard has been a revolving door of late in terms of productivity, playing better. So that's one area where you're a little bit concerned. But I'm not really concerned, to be honest with you. The over-under is 47. Weather's going to be good late Sunday afternoon, early evening. I'm not worried about the weather. It's going to be fine passing weather. I don't worry about the Eagles' offense. The area where I worry, Mike, if I'm the Eagles and their fans, is the Eagles' defense versus the Cowboys' offense, which has been sensational in the last 2 weeks.
All right, well, let's flip it over there then. We had Jesse Holley on, who played for the Cowboys. He covers them now. He does their pre- and post-game. One area, by the way, in this, he said that he was really concerned about was Philly's D-line against Dallas's offensive line. But we've seen Washington's offensive line is a struggle for them, and Dallas or Washington just said, look, we're going to get the ball out of the hands faster. So is Dallas's offensive line struggles against Philly's defensive line, does that even factor in this game with all the other stuff?
Yeah, Prescott's more of a 5 and 7 step drop quarterback. Yeah, I don't think that's a big deal in terms of getting it out. What it is this is the one thing that concerns me is that the Cowboys are they'll switch to 11 or 12 personnel depending on the matchup. They were not deep at receiver at all last season. Michael Gallup was coming back from an ACL. He didn't play well. They didn't have Brandon Cooks. Jalen Tolbert wasn't even in the rotation, was the third rounder last year. This year it's Gallup, Cooks, Lamb, who crushed the Rams last week inside, had his career best game over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Turpin, even their kickoff and punt returners getting involved in the aforementioned Tolbert. And Jake Ferguson scored last week, who's their starting tight end, number 87 out of Wisconsin, his second-year tight end. So they've got the ability to go with Luke Schoonmaker, their second-round tight end, when they go 12 personnel. They're really loaded, but they are not running the ball well. It's been shocking, really, to me. Now, I know they've changed their run scheme. They're more of a zone run blocking in terms of compared to gap under Kellen Moore. That's hurt Pollard for whatever reason. It's not working. So that, and the Eagles have a great run defense, but you're always worried about Pollard in the pass game where he's explosive. But to me, if I'm the Cowboys, all of the Eagles' problems in the secondary, particularly at nickel corner, they got to spread the Eagles out with Cooks, Lamb, Gallup, Tolbert, and Turpin. Turpin's an explosive guy. Now, the big issue that they have, Mike, is Tyron Smith with that stinger, as I mentioned earlier. That's where Josh Sweat lines up. Josh Sweat's the right defensive end, and you're probably going to see Chuma Edoga, who's going to play with a knee and ankle injury. As of yesterday, they thought he'd be able to play. Not a good football player in terms of pass blocking. That's a huge advantage. That's a really nice advantage for the Eagles in this game.
All right, then you got who's going to match up with CeeDee Lamb, because he lines up in the slot a lot. It's one area where the Eagles struggle.
Yeah, and that's, do they go with the committee, which they've been doing, Mike, at that position? I would say probably so. When you look at it, that to me has really been something they've kind of gotten away with, but last week they did not. That would worry me. Lamb is a terrific football player, and that's where he's going to reside. More often than not, he's inside. It's not a size thing. He just plays unbelievably well when he attacks zone defenses. The Eagles are way more zone than man. That's going to be a really tough matchup for the Eagles. And Kevin Byard, of course, played every snap last week, which is interesting. I'm really interested to see what the Eagles' approach is. It's going to be fun.
All right, Adam Caplan, there you go. The lowdown, the matchups to watch, the injury report. He's co-host of the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can find on any podcasting platform or on their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. And, of course, it's Eagles-Cowboys this Sunday at 4:25. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Adam Caplan for Football at 4 on